saw a picture of us back in 10 years ago.
We look better now.
Now
Yeah, fatter faces.
we're thinner.
How's it going?
It's good. Things are going so well.
That makes me happy. What's going on? Nice shoes.
I was looking back in time. I'm like, man, I interviewed you 4 times. This is the 5th time.
It's amazing.
And you know what? I see some things have been the same.
And some things evolve.
Things have evolved at the same time. So that's my first question is, what do you think has most changed and what has also been consistent?
I think the thing that 100% is consistent is my intent, right? I have my own ambitions and wants and dreams and needs, but have an enormous appetite to also impact others out of pure legacy and karma and good and just believing in that. So I think that's unbelievably consistent. Believing in hard work, believing in like consumer-centric thinking, trying to impact people along the way while I'm on my own mission, realizing it's a world of abundance and everybody can win, and thus me winning and my audience winning feels like a good thing, whereas I think a lot of people try to monetize their audience. I think the things that change are just experience and perspective, right? Like I didn't know anything about the corporate world when I started Vaynermedia. I think my perspective on investing has evolved. When I first got into it, the market changes, the realities of the market change. And so just being experienced, I've never managed 1,000 people before, so that gives me that experience, and so I think my hope is that the thing that always makes me palpable and will allow me to succeed is I do think I'm very comfortable in my intent. And I think the other thing I think I'm pretty good at is adjusting to realities and challenging things I believed in. I'll give you a good one. Here's a huge thing that's changed. I used to create such an over-coddled environment in both Wine Library in the early days of Vaynermedia, which I still believe in. And obviously I see you interacting with Claude and everything. Like I believe in culture more than anybody's business. I do think that created a world of entitlement, and that I, no question, believe more in radical candor and more in accountability and merit. Or let me rephrase, I believed in it. I act on it more today than I used to out of experience, and that's good.
So you've traveled almost everywhere, or it feels like everywhere. You've met celebrities, CEOs, all types of people from different backgrounds, even people who are very impoverished. How has that most changed you or influenced you?
That one probably played out intuitively, meaning I think that I surely didn't need to go to Ghana or the hood to be grounded in like, wow, because I came from so little. So I think...
relatability.
Yeah, I mean, I very much knew the realities of like, I didn't need a humbling or see the other side of the tracks. I'm from the other side of the tracks. I would actually argue winning in early social media and investing in Silicon Valley showed me more of the affluent and like that side than I needed to go and see people struggling to be grounded. So that's that. Actually, maybe that's the answer. I think seeing the abundance world up close helped me, and seeing the impoverished world up close really just solidified truths that I knew, which is people are people universally. Happiness is completely and utterly not tied into financial success. And I'm unbelievably grateful for really one thing, not for where I live or how nice my office is, that for the health and well-being of the people I care about the most. I mean, that is the most universal thing, whether you are, if you made $1 billion on IPO or you walk 4 miles for fresh water, the thing that stops you dead in your tracks is when somebody you love is sick or dies. So I think, the answer is shockingly not a whole lot, because I think on that part, I was unbelievably, in hindsight, intuitive of what real life's actually about. Are you able to do what you want to do on a daily basis? And are the people you care about the most healthy and happy, or at least healthy? That puts you in an incredible place.
And what do you think the fine line is between hustle and just really working really hard to be able to live your dream, and burnout? When can you go too far?
Yeah, I think it's a super important conversation that I think I'm often misunderstood because of my passion around hard work and hustle. I think the answer to that question is very individual. I get very upset when people try to suppress people from hardworking without realizing that that's what makes that person happy. And whether it's me or Jason Fried and DHH, like I think we actually agree on most things. I think the thing we probably would, I'm curious in a sit down is, is it up to us to know when Dan or Johnny or Susan are on the verge of burnout, and or do we know, like telling people like you should work 40 hours a week or 160 hours a week eliminates knowing what they're about. I don't know what to say. I think none of us get to sit on an ivory tower and tell people what to do. Do I believe that hard work is an essential part of the kind of success that people define? I do. Do I think working so many hours that it burns you out that you need to retire or quit or you're unhappy in perpetuity is bad? Of course I do. I think this is a self-awareness game, and actually I think it's a much more interesting game of like, do you know why you're working or what are you trying to achieve? I would go crazy sitting on a farm in middle America or doing 28 weeks of vacation. It's not what makes me happy, but I unbelievably am happy for the people that makes it happy. I love the process of building something the way I want to build it. I would go crazy having all people working remotely the way 37 Signals does. They would go crazy managing 1,000 people under a roof. I think it's about self-awareness.
In terms of your responsibility as a leader with a big platform, or any leader who is managing people, leading people to to living the purpose, to achieving big things in life and business, what is that responsibility now, especially in today's world?
To me, I first and foremost don't have the audacity or the ego to think like anybody should listen to me or I have anything like special to say. I'm unbelievably passionate on over communicating my truths and passions and beliefs and ideas, but I feel no sense of responsibility with, I amassed some attention and a quote unquote big audience by never wavering to anything other than I have good intent, I want to share my thoughts and dreams. I do not believe that most of my ideas work for everybody. If anybody can get any value out of it, that makes me happy. I love that it's free. But I don't overburden myself, because the reality is that I don't expect or require people's attention. That's not what makes me happy. That's not, I have no question.
But attention is the asset.
It is the asset that I absolutely believe in, but I don't want it to formulate people to be like me. Like, I chase it because it's the thing that I understand has value and creates opportunities, but it only gives me the permission to try. I think there's a level of entitlement that too many people with audiences or leaders carry around that I just don't. I genuinely feel like I'm only as good as my last at bat. I'm not unaware that there's, I prefer, here, what, it's funny, talking this through has me in a really good place. I'm so aware that I'm not capable of doing the wrong things that make me vulnerable to have like when people are like, you have a sense of responsibility. I feel very cozy with that because I'm not going to harass, I'm not gonna steal, I'm not gonna cheat, you know what I mean? So I'm not scared of like the big things that like, oh, I let down a generation or my audience. I wasn't parented or have those chemicals. Now, let me go somewhere completely different. Though I've really now gotten to a great place on this, could have it been possible that I texted and drove and hit somebody? It could have. Like, I'm a human. Like, humans make mistakes, sometimes very big ones. So, I feel a responsibility as a human being, the same one I felt as a 17-year-old kid that nobody knew as I do today with somebody who has a following. Having eyes on me doesn't make me want to be a better human being. Being a human being always made me want to be a better human being. Do you know what I mean?
I think the thing that I've seen that is extremely courageous of you recently is being in Asia and telling people that, the way their people are parented is they're like products. To me, when you said that, I'm like, wow. Like, would you have said that 5 years ago?
I think that's right. I think I would have not, because I didn't have a big enough young audience 5 years ago. This is what, right? I'm even getting goosebumps. This is the real answer. This, my Twitter audience or my YouTube audience just wasn't kids. First of all, I was doing wine at first.
And then you doubled down on culture.
Yeah, I did. And I think it's amazing, moments in time, right? Like, I got very passionate about podcasts and Instagram at a time, Mike Boyd came back into my life and we tripled down back on something we did in '09 around hip hop, which contributed. I absolutely became a more contemporary communicator, and it just clicked. And I think intuitively I felt like, I'm very not worried. This goes back to responsibility. I have a passion to talk about entrepreneurship in a way that I think was a little bit different, from the perspective of being worried that it was a house of cards in the making, because it was not what you and I grew up with in '07 and '08. If you think about the founders that you and I grew up with, they were absolutely more nerds than now, which are absolutely more cool kids and like wealthy.
It's opened the floodgate.
It's opened the floodgate. It got cool. And and I definitely, not that I felt there was a sense of responsibility, I knew that there was my truth in it that would be interesting. Nonetheless, that led to an obnoxious amount of interaction from kids that made me realize, oh, wait a minute, most people don't have it the way I had it with my, people talk about entitlement or privilege, white male privilege, things of that nature. I've come to realize my sanity and happiness in my head and my mother and father for that matter, my parents are my privilege. I'm a product of parenting privilege. And so I think the reason I've gone into the parenting sphere is that is where I feel a sense of responsibility. I was gifted some really good parenting stuff, thus I do want to talk about it in a way that's very obvious to me.
My parents who love you, they say, you can choose your friends but not your family.
That's right, and like health and your parents and where you were born, and to what. These are things that, people want to look at as luck, and I totally understand. I think I'm a big fan of like 3 and 7 offsuit hands sometimes win poker matches. I think being in a world where like your whole life's been mapped about luck or not luck is just a really non-happy existence. I think people are way more in control than they realize, but of course there's millions of variables that we're not in control of. It's a clear balance of the two.
Everyone has their thing though.
And sometimes what people deem as luck is not luck. So for example, people that are born into a rich family, for a lot of people that don't come from money, are lucky. I see a lot of depression around people that have been deemed losers because nothing they achieve will be given credit to them because their parents gave it to them. So I think how we define luck or happiness or privilege is a very interesting thing too, is having too much or having too little are in a lot of ways to me are one and the same.
One of the things you talk about is how you shut off all the voices, if they're positive or negative. Like, how does someone go about doing that?
I'm not sure, which is why I haven't gone there a whole lot. I'm bringing it up because I know it's true. It's wild to me that when somebody pays me a disproportionate compliment or insults me greatly, they kind of filter the same way, and I started realizing, my God, that's something I have to figure out. There's something to that balance, that zen, that stoic nature. This is what people are throwing at me. I'm like, oh, okay, let me look this stuff up. Oh yeah. Nothing has been perfect, right? By definition, but there's a lot of nuances in some of those things, and I think it's important to mention, in a world where I do believe more than ever people are getting their validation from the public reactions to their output on life, which then manifests in people being PR agents of themselves, which manifests in a lot of things that I've been watching for over a decade. But it's very true, and sometimes I put out things for the sake of other people running with that baton. I may not yet have a way of a process of that, but I think it's, clearly I think there's a lot in early parenting in creating some self-esteem without creating entitlement. Self-esteem, or I think about words like self-esteem, entitlement, accountability, delusion. These are all words that run through my head often, of like getting that balance right. Confidence without delusion, right? Accountability over entitlement. That's a framework I play within that I want to keep speaking about, because I think some smart people may know what to do with it.
Yeah, one of the big things that you always talk about and you have for years is empathy.
Yeah.
How can people be more empathetic at work and at home?
Again, not completely sure, but I do think that making empathy a strength versus a weakness. I think a lot of people look at being kind or empathetic as like people walk all over those people. I think is a negative. I think empathy and kindness is an ultimate strength. It's why I think I'm a really interesting case study.
I'm sitting across from you. It feels like we talked 2 weeks ago or 5 years ago. It feels the same.
That makes sense to me, and I think what you recognize, because we've been running in the same circles a long time. What I hear when you say that is, hey man, the last 18, 24 months, something clearly happened different with you than what we were doing for 8 or 9 years. Yeah, I think what I promise you, and I know this to be true today, is I think it's gonna continue. I think I'm gonna have other moments in my, I'm clearly gonna make a video one day that the whole country's gonna see. It's inevitable. And guess what? I don't think I have it in, I put on a pedestal kindness and never selling out higher than I'm cool and money, thus it's gonna feel like this forever. Like I just don't know how, I couldn't feel comfortable having you run around Earth, even telling one person, oh, he changed. People are gonna say that aren't close, but as long as everybody who actually interacts with me doesn't feel that, I feel like that's important to me, mainly because I don't think I'm better than anyone. I don't think my time is more valuable than anyone's. I don't think anything other than, man, a lot of circumstances happened that allowed me to have this life, and I don't want to take those for granted, and I surely don't think I'm the end-all be-all of those things. Thus, I better carry around the humility that comes with it, otherwise that begins the process of it going away.
How can we be more human through technology?
By using it as a gateway drug to interact and be more, I think being human is less about doing it online or doing it offline. I think human is kindness, empathy, listening,
How can we
context.
instill empathy and listening into technology? Maybe in the creation of products or the use of products?
Maybe, I don't know that answer. I can say this, my swing at it, my attempt at it is to bring more awareness to these soft skills and then maybe merchandise them in a way that's a little cooler than we've ever seen before. I'm proud that a 17-year-old guy right now is walking around using words like kindness, caring, empathy, patience, right? That's a legacy. I'm very, very proud of that. That is what got me deeper into culture / youth / contemporary. I have a purpose. And that purpose is to make the skills that I think make people more human, more popular. I think nice guys finish first. I just think they're losing at halftime. And I think people are confused.
How do you go about instilling everything you just said with empathy and kindness into an organization that's growing and scaling that?
I think, back to knowing that you and Claude have gotten close, easy. Empower people, put them on a pedestal, and make that the religion. That's super easy. You pick people over money. It's not hard.
The other thing that I think is most people might not say a lot about when it comes to you, which I've looked at for 12 years, is you literally remember everyone. Like I haven't seen you in 2 years, you remember me. I haven't seen you in 50 years, you probably still remember me. And it's the same with a lot of the interactions you have. Even when you're in Instagram Live, you're like, John, or you know everyone. And I think that is remarkable. The only one in my life who's ever done that is my father, who can walk into a room and remember people's names, birthdays, daughters' names, fun fact about them. How are you able to do that?
I think there's a very funny thing that's going on with me, and I appreciate you bringing it up. It makes me feel very nice. It throws a lot of people for a loop when I say this. I listen way more than it looks like I'm listening. The only way you can know is if you listen, right? You have no chance if you didn't listen in the first place. I have a good memory, fine. I actually listen. That throws everybody off because I interrupt so much and I talk so much, which are clearly traits that aren't listening. It's that I don't need a lot to listen. I'm a quick study. Yeah, and I also feel a lot. I feel a lot more, like I don't want to get super weird, but like I almost know what everybody's about to say on the first word based on the energy of them.
Yes.
And thus, there's a lot of assumptions that end up being true, that end up being scalable. But I remember, mainly because I love people. I was about to say and I stopped myself. I love people.
Yeah.
I like you. I want you to be happy. Like I want him to be happy. Like I like people. Like why not? I'm coming to realize like, oh, I realize something most people don't. Abundance is real, and nobody's success or happiness comes out of mine, and thus I cheer for everyone. Even my competitors in real life business, even another agency, even somebody else selling a book or sneaker, social media following, I'm unbelievably competitive, but it's kind of like that athlete that like is rowdy and tough on the field, but as soon as that goes to buzzer, kissing, how's your wife, how's your husband, shaking hands, kissing babies. That's how I am.
So you're grateful for your family and how you grew up, and that has made you be optimistic,
Yep.
positive,
Yep.
and likable. I think that there's a connection between all of those.
Me too.
And I think that anyone who I know who's positive, whether they surround themselves with a lot of positive people, which is what you've been recommending, you want to be positive, be around positive people, not negative people. I think people are likable because they're positive.
I agree.
Think about the interactions I have. There's not, I probably need to surround myself with more positive people too, but I think the positivity.
Well, let's stay right there, because the most important thing we can bring people value on is what you and I know, and I just saw it, because I have it too. Positive people attract negative people because they need the positive energy. And when those people are your family, you're gonna feed that. Like, it's not super complicated. I'm very comfortable, and I don't say it often, but like my sister and dad are more negative than my mom, and I've fed them way more than I need to feed my mom. That's right.
You know the personalities. Now, here's the follow-up question is, if you know you need to be around more positive people to be positive, which is very logical, how do you go about finding positive people? Is it just you experience enough people, you go to enough events,
yeah, I think
sort it out and you figure it out?
I think it's less hard than people realize. Like, it's, positive people are easy to sniff out. Like, get out there, or like even in your own comments or in online communities. I mean, I think that's where online is incredibly powerful. You can find them. You can find your tribe, I mean, you could be playing Fortnite and talking to somebody that you teamed up with, and like you can just smell their positivity, right? Or it's more about, like, people always ask me, like, how do you hire better? I'm like, it's about firing. So maybe the way you find more positive people is just actually get rid of more negative people.
Which was hard for you in the early days.
Very hard.
Really
very hard.
Bare bones. You were just trying to
very hard. Very hard.
And you changed. What got you there didn't get you to the next phase.
Yeah, I just knew that I had to build, right? And you have to be better at 43 than you were at 34 than you were at 22. It's evolution. At least you have to be if you have ambitions, and you have to reconcile some of your natural weaknesses in the same way that you lean into your positives. And I continue to evolve and feel very confident in that process.
I've drawn the connection between how you're building your empire and what Sir Richard Branson has done.
Interesting.
Because he has
I remember
the Virgin Group.
Yep.
And then you have VaynerX.
Yep.
And then there's sub-brands.
Yep. And then
over 400, but it feels like the same model.
Yeah, no question, without really realizing it.
Inspire you?
No, but I'm definitely not unaware that, like, oh shit, this is a very similar thing.
Too.
Correct. I definitely would not, like, it would be unbelievably inappropriate for me to be like, what? Like, no, he didn't. I knew nothing. I wasn't a music head. I'm definitely not an adventure head. But no question, when I've looked up and be like, wait a minute, I may not end up having the island, but no question, there's clearly DNA similarities in using persona for business, enjoying it, being authentic to yourself. I think I've not spent time with him.
I'll hook it up.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot. I think there's been a lot of opportunities. I've not spent time with him, but no question, I see the parallels as well.